Joe Dodd, founder and owner of King of the Coop, a buzzy hot chicken-themed restaurant in Tampa, has had a roller coaster career in hospitality, with some ventures doing better than others. One theme through it all, resilience. Telling stories like how Joe has honed his hospitality strategy and work culture philosophy are one of the Business Observer's superpowers. To read more about entrepreneurs like Joe, subscribe to the Business Observer. Go to businessobserverfl.com to sign up. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer from the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Joe Dodd, founder of King of the Coop in Tampa. Joe, welcome and thanks for being here.
Hey, bud. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into King of the Coop. We're going to get into your career in hospitality and restaurants. But before that, I want our audience to get to know Joe a little bit better, starting with some rapid fire questions.
I'm here for it.
All right, let's do it. If you could choose a walk-up song, you're coming to work and you get a walk-up song played just for you, what song is it going to be?
What's King of the Coop, baby? It's Chicken Fried by Zach Brown.
Yes.
Or someone I used to know by Zach Brown. No, Chicken Fried. Chicken Fried.
Chicken Fried by Zach Brown, man. Love it. All right,
Yeah.
Second one, more in your wheelhouse. What is the best meal that you can cook and prepare for your family?
I would say, like, my family loves how I do my steaks, right? So, like, we're not big on going out to order steaks. I think a lot of places mess them up. So we cook a lot of steaks at the house. Simple.
Simple, like it. What is your morning routine? When you're at your best, what's your morning routine?
Wake up and push hard. Just wake up and push hard, man. Like, get up in the morning. I obviously get ready to head out the door, brush my teeth. Gotta have good, clean breath, you know?
Absolutely.
And then I head to my buddy's coffee spot in the neighborhood I live in. I go there almost 7 days a week, all the time. I'm there all the time.
Like it. Give him a shout out. What coffee shop?
Spatty's Coffee in Seminole Heights.
Excellent. Spatty's Coffee, Seminole Heights. All right.
Yep.
Perfect. So you're in the food business. How did you get into restaurants and hospitality? Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
You want the real answer?
Yes, absolutely.
Real answer was when I was in high school, I did a lot of drugs, and it was the only place that I really felt welcome. It's like we were all a bunch of degenerates, right? Didn't matter if you were younger or older, you kind of fit in with everybody. And then, like, obviously I don't do drugs anymore, but the love of cooking is where it was because of that, right? Is where it started. I started as a dishwasher in kitchens. And yeah.
So you started as a dishwasher, and did you kind of work your way up, like, and you know, did you have people sort of believed in you, and how did you get from there to opening up places?
So I started as a dishwasher when I was 16 in Stony Brook Country Club in Fort Myers, Florida. And I did that for a few weeks, and I was like, man, this is terrible. I hate this, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I went and told the chef, I was like, man, I'm going to put in my notice, like, I don't want to wash dishes. And he was like, well, you kind of suck at it. And you're always on the line watching what we're doing. So instead of quitting, I'm going to put you on the schedule and I'll start training you to cook. And I, all right, you know, started in pantry and then just kind of moved my way up. And then Stony Brook, they were private. Then it went public. And that's when everybody left. And then I started from there. I went to what was back then Germain Arena, which is now Hertz Arena, I think.
Yeah, Hertz. Yeah.
And I got my job there. I was actually waiting to be interviewed, and the GM had me standing in the kitchen, and they were getting cranked. And so I just put on an apron and jumped on the line, and he was like, he comes back from it, whatever he was doing. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, they were getting crushed. So I just jumped in to help. And
That's
he was like, well, you got the
amazing.
job.
So you saw them, they're getting crushed, they're busy as heck, and you're like, let me hop in here, no training,
Yeah.
but I had to work a
No, yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah. I saw where the wings were coming from and they were getting cranked on wings. So I just
Right.
kind of took over the fryer station and he came back and asked me what I was doing. And I told him that they looked like they needed help. And he said, well, obviously you have the job.
Amazing.
And I was real young and did a lot of dumb stuff at that time. And I got let go from that position for some dumb stuff that I did, typical teenage high schooler. And from there, I helped open the Hyatt in Bonita Springs. I was on the opening team there, and that's where I really was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I got hired. I couldn't believe I got hired. I told them why I got fired from Germain Arena, and they hired me. I couldn't believe it. I'll never forget. I was 17 years old, making $10 an hour, and I felt like a king back then. Like, golly, I had the best job in all of my high school, and it was fantastic. And the chef, who is now my mentor, he's been my mentor ever since. I asked him, I was like, why did you hire me? And he said, we needed a young, like, spunky kid to throw into the mix. And that's where I fell in love with cooking.
Yeah, you fit his needs. So I was going to ask you about your mentors. Tell us about him, who he is, and what you've learned from him over the years.
His name is Patrick McElroy. He lives now in St. Louis. He was the executive chef for Washington University there for the longest
Oh,
time.
wow.
Uh, and what have I learned from him? I have learned more about how to be a great chef, not even in the sense of cooking, but treating people, how to be a better leader, how to be a better, just all around general person. He he's always taught me, just as my parents have too, but it's hard for my parents who aren't in the industry to understand, like, the industry takes a lot. And Patrick, my mentor, always drilled into me the idea of, like, quality of life, quality of life, quality of life. And it's made me to how I run my business now with my team. Is I like to focus on quality of life. I took what I've learned of the things that I like about the hospitality industry and things that I don't like about the hospitality industry, and kind of melded that, right? It comes down to, like, um, from everything from, we're closed on almost every holiday, right? Like, I hated being at work on Mother's Day when everybody's taking their moms out and I couldn't take my mom out on Mother's Day. So we close on Mother's Day. Our team, they all have moms, right? Take your mom out. Close on Father's Day. We're closed on, obviously, 4th of July, like New Year's Eve. I don't do the whole, like, oh, we're going to be doing a special menu. No, we close. Go spend time with your family. Halloween, we close early. New Year's Day, I never work the first day of the year. I think it's bad luck. So we shut the restaurant down,
Right.
for the first day of the year. And it's just a lot of things, like how we pay people, right? I I like to think, for what we do. I mean, you saw my prices, right? We pay people very well. I start my line cooks out at 17 an hour plus tips, and then I have myself and three other people. We all make around 65,000 a year, so, in salary. And it's the idea of, like, doing what everybody says they want to be done in the hospitality industry. We actually do it. We don't
Yeah.
just talk about it. We actually do it.
Well, it's so
Which
important. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
which is very good in the idea of, like, not using it as a story, but being about what we talk about. But
Yeah.
it can also be not great financially, but I am a firm believer that I care more about how we make our money rather than how much money we make.
Yeah.
Right. And if we make money the right way by treating our people good before our customers, and that's one thing about our business is we're team driven first, customers are second. And it's just the idea of if you take care of them, they'll take care of the customers.
Yeah. So these are things that you saw Patrick do, or it sounds like you learned from him. And
Yes,
you've also seen stuff you didn't want, right? As you just said, you didn't
of
want to be
course.
open Mother's Day
Yeah.
and things like that. So sounds like the team
Yeah.
has really resonated with that. Has that made it, hiring is so hard, hiring and retaining is so hard in hospitality. Has that made it a little bit easier to keep people the way that the things that you just described?
Yes and no, right? Like everybody in life is on their own journey. So I think if it fits within people's needs, it's good, right? And it you can utilize people the same way they utilize you, right? Like
Yeah.
not using people, but if you're only here for a little bit of time, I'm okay with that, right? Like just make sure your next move is something better, right? Like
Sure.
become a better version of yourself while you're here.
Yeah. All right, I'll go back to King of the Coop because you have a location in Seminole Heights, but you had some kind of twists and turns. Tell us about coming to Tampa and how you have built the business into what it is today.
Okay. We moved to Tampa in 2016, my wife and I, and we just had our youngest in 2015. My wife, she manages a law firm that does like aircraft taxation law, and they were based out of Naples, and it moved up here. The owners of that company wanted to move up here, and so I went from working. Man, I was working a lot at a restaurant that was owned by friends of mine in Bonita Springs called A Table Apart, and I was there a lot. Like we didn't open till 5 p.m., but we'd be in there like 6 a.m. and not leave until midnight, 1 a.m. sometimes. Um, but I loved it, you know. So I went from doing that to being a stay-at-home dad when we moved to Tampa, and I was ready to kill myself after 2 days of doing that.
You're like, heck with this.
Yeah, I called my wife and I was like, "When are you coming home?" And she was like, "I get off at 5." And this was the second day. I was like, I can't do this, right? Like, I have to go to work." And so a buddy of mine, his wife worked with my wife at the time, and he was like, "Hey, let's do a food truck." And I said, "That sounds fantastic. I don't have any money to do one." And he said, "I'll pull it from my 401k." And we did. We started a food truck called Taste Buds. And we did that for a year. And after that year, he didn't want to keep doing it anymore. Which it's food trucking is a tough life. It's hard, right? So my wife and I bought him and his wife out of the business. I changed the business name from Taste Buds to Soul Food Street Kitchen and was rocking that. And then in 2018, a friend of mine here in Tampa who's in Armature Works set up a tasting for me because they had a rotating stall. And it was a 4-month contract. And she was like, "Hey, come do a tasting with these guys and see if you can get a contract." So I went and they offered me the contract on the spot. Uh, so I opened, and on our menu was Nashville hot chicken. That was one of our items, and that's what we sold the most of. And I realized at that point we had zero uh, um, competition in
Yeah.
Tampa at the time, and that's where King of the Coop started.
Excellent. And you have, how many locations do you have now?
So right now we just have the one in Seminole Heights. We're in Amalie Arena,
Right.
and we're fixing to open one in 303 Depot in Mulberry, which is just south of Lakeland. And then we have A smaller version in Greenwich, Connecticut, actually, in a brewery up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So going back to your career and leadership, what have you seen makes good leaders? You talked about Patrick and some of the things. What are some of the characteristics that stand out to you about good leadership?
Communication and honesty, right? Like, and then also like not being scared to call people out and not being scared for people to call you out either, right? Like, I I think when it comes to working with teams, like if even though at the end of the day I'm the boss per se, right? Like the boss still messes up, and the boss needs to be vulnerable to the team, where it's like, hey, if you see me mess something up, call me out, because I'm going to call you out if you mess up, right? And it's just one of those things. It's like communication and honesty.
Yeah. Excellent. Uh, we talked a little bit before, things ups and downs in the hospitality business. How have you come back from a failure or a setback, and how do you sort of advise or recommend other startup business people, business owners come back from setbacks?
Man, we had a huge setback a couple years ago. At one point I had 5 locations. Um, and that ended up being very, very bad for me. I thought that I wanted King of the Coop to go a certain way, like I wanted a franchise.
Yeah.
And when I realized the franchising model and how it worked and how anti franchisees, how do I say it? It's like being a franchisor. I realize it's all about how much money you make,
Sure.
right?
Royalties
And
and fees. Yeah.
royalties, rebates,
Yeah.
and when it comes down to that, and you look at how small the margins are already, right?
Yeah.
When you look at that, and then you look at the fees placed on top of a franchisee, the royalties placed on top of a franchisee, the rebate where you're increasing their cost on their products that they buy, and you get a check, you get money from that. It's like, man, this is like, how are you setting people up to succeed? Right. And when I started questioning that is when everything started to fall apart. And when I took my foot off the gas, right? And it's not the only person I blame is myself, right? I did have people in my ear, but at the end of the day, I listened to the noise rather than creating my own music, if that makes any sense, you know? Um, and it just, it threw us, I went through $1.5 million in about a year trying to keep everything afloat. We crashed and burned, right? And it was very public how it happened. Everybody saw it, Um, and you say, how do we come back from that? How do we come back from that? It took me a while to get to where I'm at now. It took me a good year and a half, almost 2 years of like wallowing in my own shit and realizing I had to realize that I was the problem instead of passing the blame, right? There was blame to be dished around, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that agreed to go along with the ideas. I'm the one that agreed to say, yep, let's go down this path. And it was a path that I didn't know, and I just let us go too far down that path. And once I realized that, and then I just put all the blame onto me, and I had to really like forgive myself, if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
right? And understand like there's nothing to gain in wins, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I had lost everything when I lost the restaurants.
Right.
but I still had my family. I still had my friends, right? And I had the important things that mattered in life. It showed me how far away I got from who I was as a person. And I became, I saw myself as somebody that I was disgusted with. I became
Yeah.
somebody that I wouldn't have hung out with me, right? Like I became a piece of shit. I thought I was this humble person and this and
Yeah.
that and talking about these humble things and I was doing the exact opposite and I didn't even realize it,
Yeah.
and then once I kind of just sat down and stopped wallowing in my own self-pity and just took a look at it for what it was, I was like, okay, I know where I messed up. I know now what I'm not going to do
Yeah.
moving forward, right? So when I said there's nothing to gain in wins, I gained so much knowledge in my losses
Yeah.
that when you're able to just humble yourself, right? It's easy to be humbled by somebody, but when you can sit down and humble yourself and say, I f***ed this up, right?
Yeah.
I'm the one that did that,
Yeah.
right? And that's when I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to go again. Like we're gonna go and have another run at this. And that's where we are now.
Yeah, and you often hear, when you read about businesses and startups and companies and even, the Jeff Bezoses and all these successful mega billionaires, you hear that they learn more from their failures than they have from their wins, right? That comes up a lot. We learn more from what
Oh,
went
for sure.
wrong. And it sounds like that's something that is true for you.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. If you can really like pull yourself out of the situation and look at it from 1,000-foot view rather than a 10,000-foot view,
Yeah.
right? And if you're able to do that and able to understand that you're the problem, then you can learn a lot.
Yeah. So you touched on it a little bit. One last question. We're coming up on summer, about halfway through 2025. What's next for King of the Coop? Give us an overview of again, you addressed it a little bit, but what's coming up for King of the Coop that we could look forward to?
We have, hopefully we'll be signing another contract with Amalie Arena.
Sweet.
To keep going in there. They just went through a transition on their, they were Delaware North. Now it's a different company. We're opening a mini version of King of the Coop in Mulberry and 303 Depot. We're doing another concept in that place as well called Bottega Porchetta, which is a porchetta sandwich concept. Super excited about that. And, I'm really just hyper focused on our Seminole Heights spot and those two other spots in Mulberry right now. Maybe looking at taking on some investors for Seminole Heights spot. There's some stuff that I want to do to elevate the space and just kind of change it up a little bit. But other than that, man, just staying focused and getting back to just doing the best damn chicken that Tampa has.
Excellent. Joe Dodd, King of the Coop. Thank you so much for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you.